everyone. Welcome back to Lise Loves Paper. This is the photo we're using today of my daughter and my dog. And first I'm picking paper. Usually you guys don't see me do this part, so I wanted to show you. That's my paper storage, which I will explain in another video more in depth. But as you can see, it's organized by color. I'm going through like my whites and light grays right now. I'm pulling out some candidates. I knew in my head that I wanted this layout. I wanted the focus to be on the photo and the title because it's a pretty significant story that I have to tell. So I was trying to keep all of the supporting stuff pretty tame in comparison, which is why I wanted a light background. Now I'm going through my black and whites and pulling out some papers because I know I want to do a lot of layering behind the photo. So I'm pulling out some candidates to see what will work. I'm paused right here because I was reading the phrases that were on this Vicki Boutin paper because it's a more serious, somber story, and I didn't want any paper that would say like, best day ever, love this, and that kind of stuff. I needed something that matched a bit better. I love that paper. I put it back because it was a little too much. It was very in your face, and I was not going for that. So flipping through the rest, I think we've got some good candidates. Now let's look at my 6x8 pinks because I knew I wanted to include just a tiny bit of color. If you saw the photo at the beginning, it has red in it. I did not want to bring red in because that would be too much, but I thought a nice soft pink, some pink layers in there would really help. So here I am going through these papers. In a second, I will tilt it up just a little bit so you can actually see the papers like I was seeing the papers. I realize that you guys are just staring at the tops of papers and can't see what I'm seeing in just a minute here. But I'm going through and you'll see I'll test some and reject some. And what's going on here is that a lot of see that one leaned kind of yellow and I didn't want that. And some of them, here we go, just weren't the right tones of pink. So I'm just throwing out some candidates so I can basically narrow down my field. I won't necessarily use all of these, but I'll at least have something to play with. So that one had gold on it, and I ended up rejecting it because at that point I didn't think I wanted gold on this layout again because I didn't want it to be flashy. Spoiler alert, I do end up adding gold in the embellishments, and that paper would have been fine. But in the end, I'm glad that I didn't have gold in my paper, just in the embellishments. Okay, so this is what we're working with. Now I'm trying to decide what background paper I'm going to use, and then I pause and I'm like, no, I don't want to make that decision. Let's trim the photo. I get very distracted by little teeny tiny things, like my photo not being trimmed. Do you guys get distracted like that? I can't think about anything else, so I had to trim it. Now we're at another day. I don't know what was going on in my previous clips, why the left side was so like bright and washed out, but anyway, now we're back to normal on another day, and we're choosing the background. And I end up choosing this one. It's a very subtle, like distressed tile print. And it's exactly what I was looking for. It's very light. It's not in your face. It's beautiful. And I didn't go with that grid, the pink fresh grid that you saw, just because it seemed too straight. I don't know how else to explain it. So here I am playing around now with layering. I know I want both of these to layer. I love that paper with all the words. I think it's from Studio Calico. And I'm just kind of messing around right now before I glue anything down, but soon I'm going to have to start gluing things down. I decided I didn't want it to be white pink like that, but I realized that if I was going to have the photo on that paper, I did need to mat it with something. So here I am working on that. I didn't want to get rid of that beautiful bit of painty goodness on that paper, so I decided to use the top bit of it to mat my photo. And yes, I am cutting it off where there's a perforation because I cannot stand the little doodads that the perforations leave. So I'm a crazy person like that. Now here I am. I'm going to show you in a second. I'm placing this. I want to save a couple of the words. I think capture, rest, embrace. I wanted to make sure that they were readable still. So here I am. I'm going to tear off the bottom, deciding where to do that, and deciding that I want to tear toward myself so that I don't have the white. The back of that paper is what I flipped it over, and it's got the stripes. Love that. It was a happy accident. Now watch, I'm going to point out here in the bottom left, I don't want what I call a peak. So in the industry I was in previous to, staying at home, whenever a little teeny tiny bit of something would peek out in a distracting way, we called that a peek, of course, and I'm hypersensitive to them now whenever I do things like that. So had I not shifted that texty paper down a little bit, you would have seen a little bit of that pink pattern showing through, and I didn't want that. So here I am deciding where I wanted to cut that paper. I do want to keep the whole thing on there. I'm not going to mat it a little smaller. I'm about to glue this down, and then I realize, oh wait, let's do something else. I want to add to this paper here. So I'm getting out my watercolors. That's the Christy Rice watercolor palette. It is a beautiful palette. It's spendy, but it's totally worth it if you're into watercolors. They're just gorgeous colors. They mix so well. And I picked this one because it had that, I knew it had that soft pink in it, and it matched really well. It also had a red in it that I figured I could mix if I needed to get the right kind of color. I did mark about where the photo was going to go, so I knew I didn't need to paint in the middle. And I'm just kind of painting random hearts here and there. I'm trying to do a couple on the edge like that because I think it makes it look more authentic if you do that. So I'm using the pink here just straight out. I didn't need to mix it. It matched beautifully. You saw I did a test heart there right below the palette on, and now I'm testing the red just to see, does it match the photo? Do I need to dilute it? So I should have let the pink dry before I do this, because here I go. I stick my arm right in one of those pink things, but I realized it, and so I didn't smear it around, luckily. But adding some red ones in there, here and there. It was a little tricky trying to make sure I didn't smear any of the pink hearts at the bottom, but I made it happen. Now, I was not trying to be perfect. Some of them, it goes a little bit outside of the lines, or I didn't fill them in completely, and I did that intentionally. It was kind of doodly looking, and I wanted to mimic that. I didn't want anything too perfect. So here I am trying to decide. I think I have a gap there. Let's put the photo back on top. Yes, I think it's very visible gap, so let's add just a little bit more here and there. Had I been smart, I knew I was cutting the bottom off. I should have done my test hearts down there instead of on that off cut over on the side, but oh well, live and learn. So I'm trying, when I'm doing this, it looks random, but I am putting a lot of thought into making sure that things are not like directly above one another or beside. Now here I am doing my hinge trick because I wanted to go ahead and tape it down, but it was still not dry, so I did a little hinge on the side so I could flip it up, but it stayed exactly where I wanted it to. Now, if I were smart, I would have gotten rid of those tape you'll see later. So this is my paint splatter box, and the papers that I pulled out are papers that I keep in there to cover important parts of the layout before I splatter it, and I just keep them in there so I don't have to go looking every time. Now, I know a lot of people feel very strongly about red splatters and how they look like blood. So you'll notice what I had done was I actually mixed the red with the pink so it wasn't quite so like in your face red. And I feel like they're itty bitty teeny tiny splatters anyway, so it looks a little less like blood for that anyway. I tried to do the trick where you squeeze the paintbrush and you get a drop. Didn't work for me. So I got a bigger paintbrush. Still wasn't quite what I wanted, but in the end, I really like the very subtle splatters here. So I think I'm done. I pull it out, and then I realize, oh no, I left the tape on there. Now I'm going to have these weird tape-shaped holes with no splatters, so let's put it back in there. Add a few more splatters to disguise that. Silly, silly Elise. That's okay. It all ends up okay. Nobody would know. So I'm using a heat gun to dry it just a little bit before I mess with anything else. And now I'm drawing underneath it just because it was curling up a little on the edge, but I end up liking that because it adds a little bit of dimension and texture. I had one little bit that was not dry, so I just dabbed it off. Now I'm going to cut off the bottom finally, but I'm not using my trimmer just in case it's not 100% dry. Now I can put this back on, but luckily I don't press it all the way down because, as you'll be able to see, I was not thinking. So as I go through these letters, I knew I wanted to use black letters because I wanted my title to be like blam in your face. But I wanted to let you know that this video is full of struggles. This was not an easy layout for me. As you'll see, I make a lot of mistakes and I struggle a lot embellishing it. But I wanted to leave all of that in here because I think a lot of times videos can make things look really quick and easy, especially in this, TikTok era that we're in. But I want you to know that it's hard for everyone, and we all have days like that. So here I am testing some letters out, and I decided to go with these Maggie Holmes ones because they're all caps. I knew I was going to mix two fonts, and I wanted the one that I'm spelling out here to stand out, and I thought that the caps did a better job of that. So I'm so proud of myself. I put stickers directly on here. I didn't even test things out, and it perplexes me a little bit later, but hey, I'm proud of myself for just trying it. Now I'm trying to see which of these letters I want, and I did want to keep the title all black, and so that's what I did. I'm going to pause here because the lawn guys are here and noisy, and I'll pick back up after they're done. Okay, I'm back. I know it's been no time for you guys, but yeah, long guys are finally gone. So here I am fussing with this title. It was a difficult one to do. I knew what I wanted it to say. I knew that I wanted to have some big words and some little words. So what you also didn't see in this video is that I took a good long break and I stepped away from it. And so after that break, I knew I didn't want the R good over to the right. So I tried nestling it right there, and I'm okay with that. But then I knew I needed to put two more words, one of which was small, one of which was big. And because this big font is all caps, there's no nestling to be done. So what I ended up doing was this kind of like diagonal, and that's why I started spelling this last word backwards so that I could get this diagonal going, and I knew I would fill that little space beside puppies with some sort of an embellishment, and it would balance it out. So I'm happy with how that turned out. It could have been kind of a mess. Does anybody else struggle with this thicker set? Because the letters are meant to be italic, slightly italic, but I can never get the angle quite right. So we'll just go with good enough for now. So here comes the embellishment drama. So what I'm doing right now is I'm pulling from that box that's off to the right side of my desk with all of my newer supplies that I tried to use first. So what I just pulled out, that was a Vicky Bouton print shop, those embellishments with the paper clips. And I love the saying on that little flag that I took off. Ooh, but let's pause. So what am I doing here? I realized this didn't occur to me because I rarely journal on my layouts, but I knew I wanted to journal on this one. I just totally forgot about it when I was planning for everything else. I knew I wanted it to be a pocket anyway, though, because I wanted it to be a lot of journaling and I wanted it to hide away. Luckily, I had not actually pressed down on the glue behind my photo, and so I was able to pull it up, and what you saw me doing was taking a piece of craft cardstock and putting it behind there to kind of negate that glue, and we formed a little pocket. I added a little bit more tape in the bottom left-hand corner so that my pocket wasn't too deep or too open. Now here I'm trying to figure out what in the world I'm going to stick in the pocket. I tried all of the little offcuts that I had, but none of them were quite right. They didn't stand out or stood out too much, and so I went to my Project Life cards. I figured these would be perfect. And so here you see I'm going through the gray ones to kind of find a few options. A lot of them I'm trying and rejecting just because they're a very warm gray and I need a cool gray on this, or they have some cream in them like that one you just saw. So that's my thought process here. I ended up getting 4 contenders, and then I'm going to kind of audition all of them. So I like that one. I really like that one. See, here I am back and forth, back and forth. Both of those I rejected pretty quickly because they didn't stand out enough. So now it's trying to decide between the light one or the dark one, and the dark one wins because I think it balances the title and that dark gray stripe at the bottom where the title is very well. So now I'm back to this little paper clip. I wanted so badly for this to work because what does it say on it? It says everything is going to be all right, and that is just the perfect sentiment for this layout. And I know I keep teasing you about what this layout is and it's meaningful in the journaling and blah blah blah, and I will read you the journaling in just a minute. Actually, I'll do that as we're going through all these embellishments and you watch me struggle. But I really wanted that paperclip to work, but in the end it just doesn't because it's too creamy and it's very distracting. I like where I have it right now because it covers up an awkward spot in the photo where there's a cord hanging down that I don't want, but I end up coming up with a different solution later. So I took another break away because I was just struggling. Nothing I pulled out was quite working, so I pulled some other things in. But you'll see the magic really happens when I bring in my embellishment binders that I'm working on. Again, I know I'm teasing you guys about these, but the videos are in progress. I keep adding to them and I will eventually share it with you. But you'll see as soon as I bring that binder out and I start flipping through it, then it comes together a lot more easily, which to me says that those binders are doing what they're supposed to be doing. But while you watch me struggle here, mess around with things. Um, this is my journal. So the title is Puppies Are Good for Souls, and the journaling will explain that for you. So it says, we got Willow in spring of 2021, a rough time mentally for most people. She was a true pandemic puppy. She fit right into our family and is a champion snuggler. We joked that Nick wanted a cuddly puppy, and he definitely got one, and then some. I said early on to Nick that puppies are good for souls because she just soothed us in her magical way during those rough times. It's become something we say when she helps us yet again through another tough time. Here, she's cuddling Elle when she was upset about losing Leo. Good for souls indeed. So you can see why this is an important layout to me. But here comes that binder, and I promise it does not spend the whole time half off the screen. Eventually, I realize that you guys can't see what's going on, and I'll bring the whole thing on the screen, but it was worth its weight in gold. I knew I wanted things that were, gray or black and white, and so that's the binder I have right now is the gray, black, and white. And you can see me flipping through things, and I'll audition some of them. So those acetate pieces I put in there with just some temporary adhesive, and you'll see me later, I'll rub it off the back. It comes off very easily, but it holds it in the book very well. So I'm very happy with that. So now I've got this kind of circle thing going on, and it works really well. It's helpful. See, here you go. Now you can see the whole binder. Ta-da! So you can see I use both sides. I knew I wanted that piece to stay, and it was so tiny I was afraid I'd lose it, so I just went ahead and taped it to the top of that acetate tab. And then I knew I wanted to go there, so I went ahead and stapled it on there. I get very annoyed when my embellishments wiggle around, so I tend to, as soon as I'm sure I want something to be somewhere, I will glue it down as soon as I can. There I was rubbing off that extra adhesive on the back of that one. So I am taking a bit of time because I crammed a lot on every single page, so I was looking and seeing. So that I pulled off right there. There's a little speech bubble, and it says all the feels. I thought it was just perfect because it's hard to use those kinds of embellishments sometimes. So I put it right there, and it kind of finished off that trio of 3, and it filled in that dead space on the photo. I will fuss with this cluster right beside Puppies the whole time. I knew I wanted that pink striped thing to go there, so I went ahead and glued it down so it stopped wiggling on me, but something is just still not quite sitting right over there, and you'll see me mess with it and mess with it and mess with it. And I think in the end it was that black circle with the heart on it. It was just placed at the same level as Happy, and it's not nice. So I found this is a little washi circle, and I love that the stripes mimic the stripes in that little love embellishment on top of the photo. I do end up using that other half of it that I've got stuck on my scissors right now. Here I go gluing more stuff down. Again, they were annoying me because it kept wiggling around. Glue this guy down too. Now maybe I can figure out. I like how that fills in that space that I was looking to fill beside Puppies. And in the end, I don't think that the title is too much of a problem. It's not my best title for sure as far as layout goes, but it does the job. Let's stick that down. I'm hiding my adhesive for the acetate behind where I know it won't show because that's always finicky. So I end up sticking that up there so we get a little hit of black all the way around. And we're almost at the end here. I'm going to glue that guy down. In the end, I don't think I do it on camera here, but I do put the date on there. I do fuss with trying some other like tiny words, but they don't work on there. I love this circle. This is written in gold, so it kind of brings the gold around over there as well. I tried this empty circle, but it just felt weird because it was empty. Flip, flip, flip. I thought for a second of using together, but it was too big. I think it would have stolen the attention from the title. I found another circle that's very similar to the one on the left side, so I wanted to add another one. It finishes it off up top. Now this one has browns and golds in it, and I wanted to add a little bit more gold, so there I go. I fixed it. So much better. Isn't it funny how just a little adjustment like that can just change everything? So now I decide no more gold. Maybe put these stickers in there, but it was too short. It felt awkward. Maybe over here. Nope. Maybe under the title. Nope. Just felt like too much. So we're almost at the end here, luckily. Let me know what you think about this layout. In the end, even after all the struggling, I'm very happy with how it turned out. I'm very happy that I got this story told. And it's in a way that you know, unless people go and pull it out, I don't think that they will. It's not necessarily something that I have to share. Um, and I like that. I'll do hidden journaling sometimes like that for that very reason. So I think it's very successful. I added a little white heart under all the feels. These are enamel pieces from Freckled Fawn. We're about done here. You'll see my frustrated, like, oh, I'm finally done hands in just a minute. But thank you for joining me today. Let me know what you think, and I will see you guys again soon. There you go. Bye.